Okay, looking at this table, you're going to use this in Business Math 1 and 2. You need to understand percents. When you have something that looks like this, how many dots are in that symbol?
2.
So what that percent tells you is that as you put this in the calculator, solve it, you have to move the decimal place twice. Okay? Well, the decimal place is starting right here. Okay? So we're going to move it twice. 1, 2. So the way it goes in the calculator is like that. Are we clear? Easy way to remember it. 2 dots in the percentage. Go to the left twice. Okay? Now, you have several different problems, especially on your do now, that is asking you for decimals, percents, fractions. Okay? So here's a table for that. 10%, the way we write it, is 1/10 or 0.10. You don't, the calculator will show the 0. It's not really that necessary. 20, 0.2, 25, 0.2. These are the fractions. So 1 divided by 5 is 0.2. 1 divided by 4, 0.25. I like to focus on this one because we understand quarters, right?
0.25?
Yep. 0.25. That's what a quarter looks like, right? Well, if we have 1/4 and the whole is $1.04, we take the part divided by the whole, we get the decimal. That's how we get decimals when it comes to fractions. It doesn't matter what the fractions are. So we focus on the part, smaller part at the top, the whole on the bottom, right? So if we're 4/4 and we're 1 or 2, it's what's going to give us the answer. That's the way we set it up. I'll go into some more of this in a minute when we're trying to figure out percentages. So 33 and 1/3, it's 1/3, 0.3, and so on. Any questions on this? Knowing this table helps, especially when we get here. Because sometimes you're going to get answers as decimals that you can convert back as fractions. But the easiest way, just deal with them as an improper fraction. Okay, this is what we just covered, right? Doesn't matter what the numbers are behind it. If it's 7.25, we're moving it 2 places. This decimal place is going twice to the left. That's how it goes in the calculator to run our calculations. Okay? Now the next section, we're going to be figuring out tips and sales tax and that sort of stuff. So if you don't move that, you're going to multiply it by 700% rather than 7%. That's why moving it's important. Okay, so we're building upon what we did last week. However, this is what our formula is. Okay? This number is always 100 at the bottom, no matter what. No matter what the question is, what the scenario is, it's always 100.
Which one?
Right here. So notice, this is 100, this is 100. Okay? Never changes when we're trying to figure out the percent. So what this formula is saying, if we know the part and we know the whole, we can cross multiply and divide to get the percent. So let's look at this. We don't know what the part is, but we know what the whole is. Okay? We know it's 50% of 100. So we're going to cross multiply. X times 100, 100x. 20 times 50 is 1,000. We divide by 100, x equals 50. Now let's think about that. If we have $20 bill, how much is half of that $20 bill? 10. This is the actual formula behind it. Okay? So as you go to set your problems up, you always remember that it's 100 when you're trying to figure out what the percentage is, or a part of the whole. Is there any questions on number 1? No. Let me see thumbs up or down on this, please. Okay, let's go through it one more time. It helps to write this out. When you go to do your do now or anything like this, write this formula out. This formula is not going to change. Okay? So it's whatever the part is goes over the whole. Think of quarters. If I have 2 quarters, it'd be 2 and 4 makes a whole, right? 4 makes $1. So then, if we know what the percent is, great, it goes in there, but it's always over 100. This number never changes. It's always going to be over 100. So we're given a number, x and 20 and 50. We're solving for x. We did this last week. Cross multiply, divide, right? Well, now you're putting it to what the actual formula is. We don't know what the part is. We know what the whole is, but we know it's 50%. This is how we solve it. Okay? Let me see if we get this. Thumbs up, down. Erica, you got it? Okay. You got to remember, it's this formula. Automatically, when you write your problems, write the 100, fill the other numbers in. Okay? Cross multiply, divide. Now look at this one. This is saying what percent of 60 is 15. So guess what? We know the part and we know the whole, don't we? So we're going to put our part, we're going to put our whole. What did I say always goes at the bottom no matter what?
100.
Yes, over x. Now let me tell you how we break this down. This is saying what percent, right? It's asking a question. It's saying what percent of 60 is 15? So 15 over 60, 100, we don't know what the percent is. We're going to figure it out. Make sense? Part, whole, percent. Then cross multiply. 15 times 100, 60 times x. So 15 times 100, 1500. 60x, divide both sides by 60. We figured out what x is. It's 25. So we know that 15 over 60 is divided by, or is 25%. Here's another way. Divide that in your calculator. 15 divided by 60. What do you get? 0.25, or 25%. So our answer is 15 is 25% of 60. So notice these problems are the same. The only thing that's different here, we didn't know the part here. Here we knew the part and we knew the whole, but we didn't know what the percentage was. Okay? So there's always some number that you're going to be solving for. Usually the problem is going to tell you, like this one. It says, what percent is 60 is 15? You know you have the numbers, right? So if you know the numbers, you know the small one's going to go at top and the large one's going to go at the bottom. You know it's always 100. We need to figure out what the percentage is. It's x. Okay? Okay, let's look at this one. 440 is what percent of 400? Okay? Now this problem's a little different. This is saying is, which means we have an answer. So our answer is 440 equals what percent of? So that's going to be multiplication. So we're going to multiply x times 400. So we write the number first, like we did last week, 400x. We divide both sides by 400. 440 divided by 400 is 1.1. We move the decimal place back twice because this is the answer in the calculator. So 1.1 is 110%. Now let's think about this for a minute. 440 and 400, right? So if this is 400x and this is what our answer is, then we know that this number is larger than the 400, right? So we know it's over 100%. It's more than its whole. Okay? Any questions on this one? You're looking for what it says. If you have an answer and is, you know it's going to be the number equals, then you got to figure it out. What percent of 400? Well, what percent would be multiplication? Okay? This one is different. If it's saying what number, you're going back to the part, whole, percent, and 100. Okay? You're using this formula. So this is saying 40% of what number is 14. Okay? So we're going to put 14 at the top. We don't know what the whole is. But we know it's 40%, always 100. This never changes. Okay, this is always set in the formula. Then we're going to cross multiply. 14 times 100 and 40 times x. So this becomes 40x, 14 times 100, 1400. Divide both sides by 40. Now we just figured it out. 1400 divided by 40 is 35. So x we solve what 35 is. We know what the part is. We know what the whole is. Okay, 40% of 35 is 14. Like I said, it doesn't matter where the number is, where it's missing, we just have to set the problem up correctly. How we tell? When it says what number, we know it's on the left-hand side. If it says what percent and it's giving us an answer, so is always means equals, we're multiplying. This one we're cross-multiplying. Okay, this one, same exact scenario. This is saying 40 is 0.8% of what number? So we don't know what the number is, but we have an answer. It's saying 40 and is. That's how we know we're multiplying. So 40 equals 0.008 times x. Now why is this 0.008 right here? Because remember what we did right here. We moved the decimal place twice. Right here, we moved the decimal place twice. Doesn't matter how many decimals there are. If there's a percent sign after this, we still have to move it over twice. So it's 0.008. So we combine this with x and then we divide it. The numerator goes in the calculator first, divided by 0.008 equals 5,000. So we know that x is 5,000. So 40% that is less than 8% is 5,000. Okay? Okay, last part. I like this example because it's real world. Can someone tell me what pure gold is? How many carats is it? 24. 24. Guess what that means? That 24 carats, there isn't anything else in that metal. Okay? What happens when you get something that's gold plated? and it's a necklace. What's going to happen over time? Well, yeah, possibly. There's impurities in the metal, but that gold is going to wear off sooner or later because it's just a layer. Okay? So what would you rather pay more for? Something that's plated or something that's solid gold? If it's solid gold, it means 100% of it is pure gold. There's no other alloys, there's no other metals in it. So it should cost more, right? Because gold is, in its purest form, is what's worth more. So we're looking at this example. Pure gold is 24K, 24 carats, meaning it's 100%. What is 14K? What do you normally see on the market? 10 and 14, right? Those are usually the two factors. You should know that you should be paying less because there's other metals that are inside that, so it's of less value, okay? So we have part and whole. We know the whole is 24, so 24 is going to go at the bottom, 14 is going to go at the top. What did I tell you always goes at the bottom? 100. So we can figure this out. We can figure out what percentage 14K gold is, okay? So we're going to cross multiply 14 times 100. 14 times 100 is 1400. Then we're 14 over 24 in this case. So we're 24 times x, so 24x. So we're going to divide both sides by 24 because we need the x by itself, right? Divided by 24, 1400 divided by 24 is 58.5. So that means it's almost 60% pure, almost. Any idea what that other percentage is? Typically it's not silver, but it'll be aluminum. It'll be less pure metals at the end of the day. So I really like this example because it breaks it down. 24 carats, the highest. What's 14? Now, we see 10 carat all the time, right? You know what's notorious for being 10 carat is class rings. When you graduate, you get your class ring. A lot of them are 10 carat, but there's actual reason for 10 carat. Any idea why that is? What do you think is harder, 24 karat or 10 carat? No. Gold at purity is softer than if they put alloys in it. So if it's a ring, like a class ring that has some size at the top, if you move it around and so on, it's going to bend over time. Where if there are these other metals that are in there, then it would be stronger because those metals have more rigid properties. So taking the same scenario, if we do that, if we're looking at part and whole, and we're trying to figure out what 10% is, okay? So we're going to put 10 over 24 equals, what goes at the bottom that I told you always happens? 100. And then we're going to figure out what x is, right?
Which one are you doing, mister?
I'm giving you an example of 10K.
Oh.
Okay? So we can see what the percentage is. All right? So we're going to multiply these, right? 10 times 100 equals, and then 24x. Notice this never changed no matter what the problem was. Right? It was 24 whether it was 14 or 10. So let's go ahead and do this. This is 1,000. And then someone put this in the calculator and tell me what it is. Divide by 24, divide by 24. What is it?
31.
We're not concerned about the rest. So 41 and a half. So 10 karat gold would be 40% actual gold and then the rest other metals. Are we clear? Okay. Let's talk about the do now. What percent, or write the percent as a decimal and as a fraction, okay? Well, what did I tell you that you do with the percent sign? Yes, move it twice. So the way this goes in the calculator is 0.18. Don't be the one. Did I give you the answer number one, right? Good talk. So if it's 18%, we're going to write it as 0.10. How do we write this as a fraction? Well, we know what the percent is, right? So if we're percent over 100, can't we divide those and figure out what the number is? Yeah. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. Look at this one right here. This one is like this example. We're over the percent, okay? So our decimal is still moving twice, okay? So just like this one was 1.1, when we move the decimal place back twice, we're 110%. So your do now is super, super easy, right?
No.
You're just moving decimals and then writing as fractions. You have a table to help you out. right? Here's your percentage, how you write it as a fraction, how you write it as a decimal, okay? If you notice, as a fraction, you're just dividing it, right? To get the fraction, okay?
Oh,
Okay, flip over your notes for a minute. You go to the last page of the worksheet. I'm not concerned that you do 18, cross out 18. I want to give you help with 19. 19 is telling you this. It's saying the answer is 700, okay? So it's, the answer is 700. You need to figure out what else is there. You have a part of 154. You know that your whole is 100, okay? The rest of them are pretty self-explanatory. You have the examples up on the board of how to solve them. 1 through 6, you're writing as a decimal. You're writing it as a fraction. 7 through 9, you're writing those as percents. 3 through 17, they're just like the examples that are on the board, okay? So you want to be able, you want to have your notes done. You want to be turning the do now on a separate sheet of paper, and you want to finish the worksheet today, okay? You have the examples in front of you to help you out. If it's saying is, you're setting up the multiplication. If you're saying what percent, you're going to have an X above the 100.
how do
Yes.
you know which number goes in the top? Like you have 1, you have 2, you have 3 right there. On the fraction.
That's why they're labeled, okay? So a percent, think of it this way, right? Percent, right? We're going to move the decimal place twice. 1, 2. So that's it as a decimal. If we have this as a decimal, it's 1 over 10, okay? This one becomes 2 over 10, right? Well, what's 2 over 10 reduced to?
1/5.
1/5, yeah, because they're both divisible by 5. So same thing here, 1 over 5. We take 1 divided by 5 in the calculator, we get 0.25. So as a fraction, it'd be 1/4, and so on. That's why this table is important. Knowing how to take a number, how to convert it to a percent to a decimal, okay? So these are all percents, and that's why it's labeled like this. It looks like this. So that means we gotta move that decimal place twice. That gives us our decimal, okay? Once we have our decimal, we can figure out our fraction. 1 over 10, 1 over 10. This one, 2 over 20, but reduces to 1/5 because they're both divisible by 5. So we simplify it, okay? So this week is not too hard because we learn about percents and then we apply percents. So basically all this that we're doing here is what we're covering on the test. So very, very similar to what your worksheet is. Okay? Okay, tell me what you need done today and what needs to go in. Yes. And the worksheet, if you got to take it home to finish it, that's fine. Just make sure you're turning your do now in today. And your do now is super, super easy.